Matt Del Vecchio here. Happy Sunday as the sun starts to set. For some of the regular listeners of Life Unrehearsed, I sometimes interview people to hear about, their fascinating and inspiring stories of when they arrived here in Canada and built their lives and careers with their families and loved ones. Well, I'd like to bring in just one of those people. I have Walter Assi on the line here with me. This might be a familiar voice to you, as Walter is the man behind the Home Improvement Show here on CJD 800, which is heard every Saturday at 9 a.m. Walter, welcome to Life Unrehearsed.
Well, hi, man. How are you?
I'm doing very well, So glad you could join me here on Sunday, Walter, in a non-home improvement role. And more on the personal side of things. We met, actually, at a CJD event at Andrew Carter's place a little while ago. And I really only knew you from your show. And when we were talking, just loved your story. And that's when I asked, hey, why don't you come on Life Unrehearsed? Your life has indeed been unrehearsed. And wanted our listeners to hear a little bit more about it. So thanks for joining me here on Sunday.
Always a pleasure, Matt. Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Most welcome. All right, let's go back to your childhood years, Walter, and your family history. Bring our listeners through your childhood and growing up.
Well, I was born in Lebanon. I'm what you call a war baby. I was born during the war, and all my childhood, really, all I knew was war, surviving war, restarting, watching my father and my mother restart multiple times. In 16 years, I was just kind of going over it. I think I've seen my father and my mom rebuild our home about 5 times. And I'm talking about complete rebuild, and rebuild his business about 4 times. Mm. So that by itself is a humbling lesson. To see someone that is on survival mode 24/7 and not being scared to start over, taking it in stride. That was, I wouldn't really call it a childhood because, when you're living in a war zone, being a child is really a luxury because there's most of the things you are doing is surviving rather than living. But it tends to shape you in so many ways. It tends to make you appreciative about a lot of things that, people take for granted. And, living in Canada is one of them. I was honored. I was lucky enough to come here. I was only 16 years old. So I had a chance to build my education here, my CJAP, I did my university studies. And quite quickly you realize how blessed you are because, you see a lot of things that are available to you that were not available growing up. Mm-hmm. And, that shapes you in so many ways.
I would imagine how it shaped you and your family, siblings, and your parents making that move when you were 16 years old. Like you say, you got educated here in it was in Montreal when you first came to Canada. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So I went to Dawson and I went to Concordia.
All right. And then eventually you found your way into the renovation business. So explain that to our listeners. What inspired you to get into the renovation business?
So my family was in construction to begin with. It was more heavy construction. That was not my calling when I was, or I thought it was not really my calling when I was in my university years because all I wanted to be is a diplomat and then to go into politics. And then after I went through the hoops of that, I realized civil service is not for me. And I kind of changed direction. I just applied to a random job as a rep in a construction company. And that's where I really realized that there's a huge lack for good contractor that is structured, in Montreal, and that's how the idea came about to start something that is different than the herd, really.
Listening to Life Unrehearsed, Matt Del Vecchio here, and I'm talking to Walter Assi, owner of Renovco and the host of the Home Improvement Show here on CJD 800. So nice to hear you finally got your feet wet. By the way, good move getting out of politics there, Walter, I have to say.
I like people to like me. I figured politics is not.
So So you're in the renovation business, and you've grown it very nicely. What were some of the challenges, Walter, that you and your team faced trying to build the company?
I mean, the beginnings were just, I mean, it was so hard on so many levels because you have the best intentions when you open a company, but you're kind of learning as you go and evolving as you go and adjusting as you go. So obviously, when I first started the company, I wanted to be the best contractor in Montreal. I wanted to be a one-stop shop. I mean, I had all these great ideas, but then you realize very quickly that they get shut down because when you're first beginning and you're small, you can't hire so many employees, so you tend to subcontract a lot. And then you realize I can only be as good as my subcontractor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that was probably the first lesson I learned. I can have the best intentions. If my plumber decides not to show up or my carpenter decides to take another job, the client is just going to look at me as the unprofessional. So very quickly I realized that, that business model is not really viable. It's not sustainable. I cannot have that concept and go with it and grow something big. So I had to change gears immediately and bring it to become an employee-based company as fast as possible so I can have full control on the cycle. And then, believe it or not, from there, everything that was pissing me off during the process is how I evolved the concept of Renovco to be where it is today.
And how many employees would you have today now after making that move?
I would say we're about 117.
Wow, very, very good, Walter. Just from
Yeah.
from contracting it out, just arriving in Montreal to over 100 employees, and just very quickly for Renovco itself. So I would imagine your business has expanded, and you're covering a wide range of services. So typically, what would a typical client look like?
I mean, we are a general contracting. Right now, we have a lot of moving parts because the way we evolved it into distribution center, design center, we have our own mill workshop right now. So we manufacture our own cabinets, our own furniture. We have, so we do kitchens, bathrooms, general contracting, fire and flood restoration. We have a whole department for that. We really we try to make it as much of a one-stop shop as possible. We have in-house architects, designers. So, I mean, when the client or the homeowner have an idea, we take it really from inception, design, inception, realization till the end. And the idea is to make it as simple as possible. So, we have our own design center where someone can literally choose their whole house in an afternoon, their whole house renovation in an afternoon. You're surrounded by a team of designers. They help you, they assist you. The contact of my designers is straight with my manufacturing plant in the back. So, the left hand, the right hand, they're constantly talking. So, and then because we have a distribution center now, so my contact is straight with the factories, straight with the manufacturers, rather than having, again, a middle person.
Sure, third party. You've really made it customer centric and easy for customers. Walter, we have to head out to news here, but I want to first of all thank you very much. Your story is inspiring, and wish you continued success and growth. You put a lot of time also in on Saturday mornings, offering great advice on the Home Improvement Show right here on CJD 800. It's every Saturday at 9. Walter, if our listeners want to find out a little bit more about Renovco, where can they go?
Renovco.com. They can reach us through our website or 856-9993.
All right, Walter, thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Matt. Have a wonderful afternoon.
You too. That's Walter Assi. Walter is the owner of Renovco and the host of the Home Improvement Show. It's heard every Saturday here on CJD.